Very good, very nice.
Surely
Not a
not.
chicken nugget.
It's just that's racist, you know. I got called that in Tenerife.
What, a chicken nugget?
Yeah, that's what black people call white people. So I heard. I can't say I was overly offended, and I've never been oppressed, so why would I be? Very good, very nice. Very good, very nice.
Yeah, we're just having some sound problems with that mic and your one.
Mine? No, mine's clear as day.
Testing 1 2 1 2. Okay.
Inside. We're just a couple island boys. Try to make it. We're in the podcast room. Recording for YouTube.
Hi, ladies and gents. We're back. It's just a duo today. Joe is with me. Josh is away. Have they switched? Is he in Dubai?
Yeah. Josh is in Dubai, and I'm back inside in London.
They've switched roles. How was your Dubai trip?
I'll talk openly about this. It wasn't the same. It didn't hit the spot for me this time, you know.
Didn't quite fill the void.
It didn't quite fill the void. I think there's a few reasons why. I think it was a bit of a baptism of fire. But I think it was. I kind of went out there because I was feeling quite lonely in my, the Groundhog Day at my flat, working, training, whatever. And obviously I had really great memories of the last time I went. I was out there with Louis Blackmore, Isaac Vaughan, and a couple others. And I felt I was in a community of people that were doing the same sort of thing as me, which was great. We had a nice Airbnb. Settings were fantastic. The weather was really good last time. And obviously it was just a bit of a dream. It was like a parallel world. Whereas this time, I sort of went out. I was with Cal and Hader for the Callum Muscle Mentors, now of Pro Coach, and Hader Mehdi at IFBB Pro. We're being good at naming people now, because we know you don't know everyone.
Well done.
Thank you. So the first few days were really good. Like, that was awesome. And then sort of Cal went, and then I was just sort of in this hotel, sort of on my own. I had my friend Jay, who no one will know, but I went out there with him the very first time. But we're just sort of on different planes, you know. I can't really. I don't get days off as such, unless I'm going to say to my clients, I'm not working this week, which I wasn't going to do. I still have to get up and do my work each day. I didn't have a car this time, so everything just I felt a bit out of sync. I'm still obviously very much in my off season, as I think previously I was in, transitionary period, so the pressure wasn't quite as big as it was this time. And I think that I just felt anxious and a bit like. Felt like I was not doing what I should have been doing in terms of, like, Joe, you're about to step on like a classic stage the first time. Like, you got big improvements to make. Even 1 week, I was just like getting hands to my pants.
I had that in my bar. I went to my bar on my own a couple of years ago in the February time, just because I can't. The older I get, the more I struggle with the winter months. When you're a kid, you kind of, it's not too much of a concern. But if I don't walk the dog until 4 or 5, it really gets me down, and I have to. The lack of sunlight really gets to me.
It's sad, that, isn't it?
Yes, seasonal annual depression.
Yeah.
The Lumilight does help, but it's
not sunlight though, is it?
No, the Lumilight wakes me up, and my body goes, "Oh my god!" But then I look outside and it's dark. But I went to my bar for a couple of years on my own in that Feb, and I was like, "Well, I'm going to be on schedule, so I'm still working." But even the case of me being in like a really nice country and good food and good vibes and that, and I felt exactly the same. Yeah,
I just felt like I wanted to be at home, which I found really ironic. I was actually supposed to stay for 2 weeks, and I just stayed for 1 in the end. It's a very different experience when you go on your own as well. I think when you're with people, everything, you split the cost of everything. Mm-hmm. So you can get like a really nice Airbnb for not too much money. Whereas I was sort of out of town in a hotel because I was like, I'm not going to make this an expensive trip.
No.
So yeah, it's all right. It's still great that I can go, and I'm going back in 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. No, hang on, what are we? Feb now.
Yeah, Max. What's his last name? Gombos.
Yeah. I'm going back at the end of March, but that will be solidly 2 weeks with Callum.
Right.
So I'm quite excited for that because.
Is that when prep starts?
Nah, just we're gonna go and do some business bits over there. I think Magic Eye Media is gonna come and get content, so that would just be quite good because obviously with Cal there, I'll be, we'd be living the same life.
Yeah, of course.
Just slightly busier than I am. So
yeah. When does prep start for you? Is there any dates?
I think prep will start in I think it will start in April, May, June, July, August, September. Nah, May, June, July, August, September. 5 months. That should be long enough. So my off season is now sort of drawing to a close over the next 4 weeks, I'd say.
Wow.
And then into like obviously a cruise. I want to spend a good time in that. So yeah, probably end of.
That's interesting. I thought you'd be going straight from off season into a prep.
I need to re-establish some health markers really.
The blood work still.
It's not bad, but like I still struggle with my lipids. My cholesterol is never really ever in a good place for me, which is obviously not very healthy. But yeah, it's.
Has that been said? Has Callum kind of giving you insight into why? Is that like a genetic?
I think it can be. I think you are like genetically disposed to like just higher or like really good cholesterol. Because my liver, kidney, like all liver values are great. They're always kind of, and even at the peak of like when you'd think I'd be really unhealthy, they're good. So it's just literally cholesterol, which is obviously concerning because long term that is
that's
probably the problem.
Yeah, because you do fall into that bodybuilder trap of going, it's only.
Yeah, exactly.
It's only, but then you have that attitude for a prolonged period of time. It's just going to build up to.
Exactly. I think it's because I have been on a bit of an assault over the last 2 years, obviously like leading up to the pro season, bit of a rest, but then like straight back into like what needed to be a really big off season for this prep. And actually, I've not mentioned this yet, but I think I've spoken to Josh about it a few times, sort of privately. But I think consciously now, I think there's like the time limit for me is like looming large. I'm seeing what you're doing, and I'm going to try and learn from any mistakes you make. But just in terms of like,
what do you mean,
well, because you're going to make mistakes, isn't it?
In what?
Losing your identity,
Whoa! What do you mean?
You're going to become a whole new person, isn't it? You were Tom the bodybuilder, but now you're not.
I don't know if I was ever really known as Tom the bodybuilder.
No, you were, mate. You were TM Cycles, bodybuilder, only bodybuilder cycle.
No, but I disagree.
I know what you're saying, but like my identity is a bodybuilder, right? Like I'm I3 pro. That is what I've built.
More so than me, may I add?
Yeah, you're probably right in terms of like you've got a decent base of like lifestyle content that you've always had. So yeah, fair enough.
And it's since even the last 2 to 3 videos I've done on hybrid and on endurance and fitness and cycling, the engagement has been silly.
And I've seen that, and actually I've got to say like that has given me a bit of like inspiration and motivation to be like, you're going to be all right, sort of thing.
Oh, absolutely, because you don't realize until you're out of it.
You only know what you know, don't you?
Because for as long as I was in bodybuilding, I thought that the vast majority of my followers were like me as well, in the sense that they were competing. And it's not. It's a good, I'd say, in the region of like 80% people that are just like fitness athletes.
Just want to look good.
And it's great. It's very, very endearing. I really do appreciate the support. But yeah, with that transition from you, I mean, I think you're like proper bodybuilder, IFBB, but you've got those for some time from a marketing point of view. You've drip fed that lifestyle element, so I don't think it's going to be too much of a shock if you were to change. Mine's been quite slow. I reckon it's not been like, right, guys, I'm rebranding. I am a hybrid athlete now. It's not that at all. It's been, because I still very much enjoy that element of bodybuilding. I'm still doing that kind of top set, back off set style. But what I am finding is that the appeal and the attraction to that particular style of training is, I'm seeing it more and more galvanise my training as a whole. Because it's very, very enjoyable, and the goalposts have shifted. The goals have changed now. So it's I wouldn't worry too much. I think you'd be surprised at how much of a positive response that you get, because most people are just in that position whereby and the simple task of me saying, I'm looking at getting a bike, bang, I think, wow, like, this is so interesting.
I think for me it's just been like I've always had this in me, and I think this is like partly my nervousness with bodybuilding is that, like you say, I do dedicate my life to it. That's absolutely fine. But I definitely flirt with like life more than I think people that really truly live and breathe bodybuilding would. And I get really conflicted with this, because I'm obviously not on C-Bum's level or anywhere near. But I see that he's like going snowboarding last week, and like he is really normal. Like, I really, really resonate with him. Unfortunately, my genetics and my development isn't quite on his level, so I don't think I can afford to relax that much at the moment. But I never thought I was going to be Mr. Olympia. So for me, it's about kind of the journey. It's the fact that I've managed to build a life and a business around that. But there is very much a nagging in the back of my head that's like, is this really like your life and soul as much as it needs to be to get to the top? Honestly, probably not. In terms of like, you know, I'm not going to eat the same meal every day, 7 days a week on my off season. I went out for dinner last night. I'm going to do that. I want to, do you know what I mean? I want to see the world. I want to travel and things like that. And then,
where did you go for dinner?
Honest Burgers.
Where was my invite?
I went with a friend. It was the chips are really bad there. But yeah, and just sort of a bit of a realization of that. And then on top of that, you know, the health. Like, me and Josh have been talking about this week, particularly, like, just the carrying around 130 kilos and, you know, like the impacts on your sleep, the impacts on like my body, mate. Right now I feel so beat up. Like, I did that set yesterday, 80 kilo dumbbell incline press, and I was just thinking, you're a fucking freak.
It's a different type of beat up as well, isn't it? Yeah. What I've noticed, like yesterday I went to Amigos, big up Amigos boxing in Orpington, and we did like absolutely beasted. I mean, I haven't felt like that for a long time, and it's a different type of sort of serotonin release post session. Whereas, like, because my mate messaged me as well, Josh Kennedy, and he said, next time you go for like a 3K run, do it outside, and you feel invigorated as opposed to doing it on the treadmill. It's like completely different. It's like almost euphoric, and it's so true that that feeling of expenditure after an hour of like on the pads, on the bag, circuit, compared to like when I'd go and do not 80 keys pressing like you, but doing like whatever on the Cybex and leaving. It's a different type of beat up. It's almost like sometimes I used to get into like almost like a depressive slump post workout.
Oh, I do, mate. After legs, yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
I got him the other day, and I'm literally useless after legs. I just get in and lay in my bed, and I was just procrastinating for hours. I've just got no mental energy, where it's the total opposite in terms of like what you're doing. 100%. I've felt that before.
Because I never got to the point whereby I had to stop because of my health being a red flag. It was all psychological. It was all, if I do this any longer, psychologically I'm going to be in a very, very, I mean, I was even going into that last prep, I separated, and it was 6 months of just continue filling voids, and it was like sometimes I wouldn't even know what had happened during the, I'd sit on prep, I'd sit with my dinner at like 7 p.m. and think, what have I even done today? Like, so it wasn't a case of like
same as you did yesterday and the day before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 12 months down the line, it's not any better, so that's why I'm doing all these sports just to fill that gap.
Oh no, are you all right?
I'm all right.
Sure?
Yeah.
Don't talk about it.
No. I'll call up the therapist again, I think. But yeah, it's a completely different feeling, and you feel more productive. Whereas like yesterday I beat myself, left Igor, and I was like, right, work, like blue water. Whereas if I go, when we used to go, all three of us on those Friday sessions at Muscleworks, remember? Oh yeah. Like Thursday night I'd load up on a Domino's, get a load of calories in, train Friday morning, and the rest of the day's done.
Yeah, so I have to get the bulk of my work done before I train, because after I'm pretty useless, particularly on a leg day. It just wipes me out. But even yesterday, mate, everything just hurt, man. I did one set, and I honestly could have left after that set, that is an incredible amount of weight to lift. Like, it's a massive achievement, but I finished it. I was like, nothing felt good about that. Like, picking it up was hard. Like, putting it on my legs was hard. Throwing it back, I was like, I'm gonna get it up. And then
interesting.
Obviously, I did it, but I was just like, oh my god. Which I think, in terms of like an insight into training, like that is the reason why we see like the emergence, I think, of machines and cables and things like that, because you can subject your muscles to much more external forces in a really effective way without as much impact on, or like, you know, risk to injury or impact on your joints, because that's certainly what's happening when you're picking up and pressing 160 kilos. Like,
so yes, I mean, it's shocking weight, isn't it? 80 kilos aside.
It was so big as well, mate.
Yeah, I know. You took a
it's just so
picture.
awkward.
Is that? It's weird you say that, because it's almost like the anticlimactic effect that Stephen Bartlett talks about when he had more excitement and exhilaration through finding 14 quid behind chicken and chip shop, dinner tables and chairs, as opposed to when he got 200 million.
I'm absolutely exhilarated with like the achievement. I really am.
Yeah.
Like I'm buzzing to have done that, and it was it was 100% an ego thing for me. Like I just wanted to tick off that weight.
Of course, I watch you do it, and I watch people in the gym like that.
It's not even for anyone else. I don't really care if anyone else was watching. I wanted to tick off that 80 kilo dumbbells this off season.
Yeah. Is that you done now though? Did you slam them down and think, right, I need to do 82 point? What were they? Did they go up at crazy?
No, they go up to 90. I'm not fucking touching them things.
No?
No way. I wouldn't be able to make a 10 kilo jump anyway, not at that weight.
No.
I would absolutely love to come to think of it.
What if we helped? As in, like, carefully placed.
Oh, it's just another 10 kg in each arm though. I think if there was an 85, I would maybe push
What
for
increments do they go up in? 82.5, 85?
No, in Craven it goes from 80 to 90.
Oh,
so that's just I'm happy with 80. Like I remember years and years ago watching Jace 345, Jace Long, press 80 kilos like with ease, and just thinking I'm never going to be able to do that. So for me to be able to done it, like, I honestly think that's like freakishly strong. So I'm buzzing with that.
How many reps did you get? I didn't see.
I got 5.
That's fast.
So I'd like to try and get into like 6, 7. If I can get up to like 7, 8, like done. Finito. Do you know what? It's funny. It's not even supposed to be programmed. I'm actually supposed to do reverse banded incline Smith press.
You're joking.
But I saw Josh incline pressing. And I was
Sorry,
like, I need
Cal.
a bit of that.
Sorry, Cal, pro coach.
Sorry, Cal, pro coach.
You're letting the team down. Congratulations to Cal, by the way. Fantastic. I do like that rebrand. It's really nice. Very, very nice. You on the logo as well.
Yeah, poster boy, buzzing.
Amazing.
Yeah, man. Big congrats to him.
I think we're getting Cal in at some point to discuss. I'm looking forward to pulling him apart a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be a really cool discussion. I always think Callum's very good at he's got away with words. I always think his captions and the way he speaks is like he's very eloquent.
Very much so.
Eloquent bodybuilding coach.
I want to bring it back a little bit because I wanted to ask you your when you're in situations whereby you feel a certain way, how that affects your relationship with food. I know a couple of people have inquired and asked about it in the questions, but particularly for we're in slightly two different positions. And we said the other day that I'm now in a position whereby I'm so sort of ferociously working, I'll get to a point where I'm like, oh my god, I have to eat.
Yeah.
I'm not eating to survive because I enjoy food very much, but the switch has been mind blowing. Compared to...
You feel like a normal person?
Yeah, I feel like a normal person. I feel like a normal person eating normal food, digest food. I've never had any issues with digestion, but I just feel like a normal person.
Are you still tracking?
Yeah, still tracking.
Are you going to stop? Or
No, I said this before on YouTube. I went through... I'm still going through a bit of an experimental phase at the moment, but that's more to do with training and to figure out what works, and I'm kind of eyeing up like a Monday to be a run, so 3 or 5k, Tuesday swim, Wednesday box, Thursday cycle, and then Friday, Saturday we'll see. Probably just a chance to recover and do some stuff in the gym. But yeah, as I had that experimental phase last year, post Marbella. I remember we went out there and I was mucking off intuitive eating. Do you remember? I was like, what do you eat? Surely not, you can't. And I still do stand by that. I think intuitive eating for uneducated individuals when it comes down to food is quite dangerous. If you said to someone that has no concept and understanding of macronutrients or calories, eat when you want, eat when you're emotional, that's a recipe for disaster. So I still stand by that. But I remember listening to it and thinking, that's a load of rubbish. And then I found myself intuitively eating, but that came at a bit of a cost whereby I wasn't getting enough protein. It was very sporadic throughout the week, and that was affecting tissue, muscle, and then I got my DEXA and it was kind of a little bit all over the place. So I feel better tracking, and I suppose when I don't want to be so on it with tracking, I'll go to protein and calories. That's like my sort of my back off if I'm feeling like I don't want to scan in things. But
yeah,
I do feel very comfortable eyeballing. I definitely think there's scope for, if you're tracking one variable, like if your goal is to gain some size and you are daily tracking your scale weight, and that is going in a positive direction, whatever key 0.2, 0.3 key gain per week, then you could be pretty lax with tracking. I think when you're taking everything away, and I wasn't tracking scale weight, I wasn't tracking training, so I wasn't progressively overloaded, and I wasn't tracking food, and that was just, you know what I mean? I felt like a 13-year-old kid again, waking up having Cocoa Pops and jam on toast. It was like, this is a recipe for disaster for me anyway. So I'm still tracking because I feel very comfortable, and I can't see myself bar when I go away on holiday. But even on holiday, we're still making, I think that's the bodybuilder in us, isn't it? We do it when we go out. We're like, we went to the cinema the other day, you're looking for that additional bit of chicken because we know we need to bump up the protein a little bit. And I think even Gen Pop people should have that mindset.
100%.
I think we should be, obviously, even that's filtered down now because the case of you look at like the dairy aisle, the yogurts now.
Protein everywhere,
which I think is fantastic. But I think even Gen Pop individuals listening to this should be concerned with ensuring that they are getting enough protein in. Not even just from I'm talking long-term effects. You look at the elderly populations and how much they benefit from higher protein percentages. I certainly remember putting my grandparents on slightly higher protein and having like, what are you laughing at for? I was like, granddad, get it down, your son.
Serious mass.
Get that shake down. Well, he was on bless him, he was on like a hospital version of Serious Mass. And I remember thinking, you know what I mean? The little bottles they were giving. I thought, no, I can give him. So I gave him PhD advanced whey. Or not, it was like oat based. So it wasn't.
Yeah.
So from like a blood sugar standpoint, it was far more beneficial for him to have that than this tripe they were giving him. But
I think on tracking, I think that we can talk about like disordered eating in a minute, like in terms of my experiences of it, and I think I'll probably be able to speak for Josh on it as well, actually, because I think we did literally the same. But in terms of tracking, for me, I had this conversation with Dr. Mike the other day, Dr. Mike II. In terms of tracking, I think tracking is a means to an end. I think if you are a person that has a goal and you want that, and that goal means you want to get from A to B, whether that means I want to add 10 kilos to my body weight and for lots of strength, or I want to lose a dress size, or I want to lose 20 kilos, or I just want to look and feel better via losing body fat, tracking is like absolutely fine. I think it's like a really educational way of getting people to, like you say, grasp an understanding of what is in food. Because you know how people like this, I'm winding it right back to like basic information. Someone will walk into Sainsbury's and be like, oh, that smoothie looks healthy. Yeah, it is healthy, but it's got like 30, 40 grams of carbs in it that you've just slammed down, and you're probably going to have some breakfast on top of that. So it's not that that's a bad thing, but it might be bad if your goal is to lose weight. So I think tracking is a really good way for people to have a better understanding of what is in the food they're eating. I think it is, as I said, a means to an end. Like it's probably the most surefire way to get you to a goal, right? A weight goal, whether that's up or down or maintaining. And then I think once you've got that understanding, I don't think I will track later on in life, because I think like you say, it's so drilled into me. Like I kind of know what's in food. I definitely, when I'm not tracking, I'm definitely like you, like get a bit lost. I had a long period, obviously, when I got back from America. I didn't track for months.
Really?
Didn't track for maybe, well, yeah, it probably was 1 or 2 months. And I still, I'm still quite. It's mainly the protein that I struggle with, because at the moment, like I'm eating 300 grams of protein. It's relatively easy, but that's because I'm having, I get up, have a shake, and then I have 2, like either an egg and bagel meal or like 2 of the Nutri-Fast meals. I have a post-workout shake, and then I have, another meat-based meal for dinner. So that, alongside all the carbs, is very easy to get protein in. But when I'm not trying to push food, I find myself missing out on that.
Do you feel like there's been a negative stigma attached to tracking?
I think there is a bit, yeah. I think if you look further into people who are probably actually more qualified than us to speak about nutrition, I know Amelia Thompson in particular. I've just referred one of my clients to her. Is really sort of quite far along on that, and is definitely qualified to help people with the eating disorders. I don't think she is supportive of tracking as perhaps we are. But I just I think it's it's everything in moderation, right? It's like if you just said you track, but if I say to you, Tom, do you want to go for a breakfast after this? You'd be like, yeah, fine, and you'll be all right. Do you track that? Do you try and guesstimate it, or do you just leave a gap?
I just make a conscious effort to mimic almost what I would eat for breakfast, and
Right.
if it's a case whereby actually I do fancy a bit more, so I'll go for like a pancake stack and maybe a couple of sausages and toast, etc. I'll just pull back on my lunch, so I'll see that as a chance of like almost this breakfast that we'll go and have this morning would be almost my breakfast and lunch merged together.
Right. Okay.
So I just make a conscious effort to get in some protein at lunch.
So what I'm trying to get at is like, for me, there's nothing unhealthy about that.
No.
If someone is absolutely obsessed with tracking and it therefore stresses them out, it therefore makes their family or their partner invites them out for a dinner and they're like, oh God, can't see the menu, so they get stressed, then yeah, unhealthy. Like, you probably need to break that cycle. But someone who tracks relatively consistently, someone who is happy to swap things in and out, or in my case, like, I would just, obviously at the moment I'm trying to just get as much food as I can, so I would leave that on there and just say, okay, I'll underestimate. Let's say I eat, a breakfast burrito and some pancakes. I'll say that's about 900 calories. It's probably a bit more than that, but it will mean that I'll get my food in for the day. So for me, that's not unhealthy. I think it's relatively healthy. Like, I think it's up to the person to decide when something's bothering them. So yeah, that's my take on tracking.
Yeah, because I remember both of you post show last year was like a just.
Yeah, we can talk about that. I don't mind talking about that. I think I feel a lot of shame at the time when I'm doing it. And again, this goes back to that thing in me that's like, are you as committed as you need to be to this process? I certainly am at certain times of the year, but I'm very, very bad post-show, and off-season I definitely take a more relaxed approach. Prep is obviously a different story. Like, it's kind of, well, I had one slip last prep, but other than that, it's like 6 months of consistency.
And I see that as well with you. I see even at Christmas, whereby you're in that off-season phase and you're more inclined to have, you get more excited about go for a fucking drink or mulled wine or whatnot.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Yeah, I like I don't drink often, but like, I do drink, and I don't mind drinking. Like,
yeah,
I rarely push it to like a limit. I don't
Yeah.
often have a night out, probably like once every 8 weeks or something, which for me, you can still progress. Obviously, I can still progress on that.
You could probably still progress on a once a month, to be honest with you.
Yeah, definitely. But in terms of like binging and stuff like that, definitely for me, struggle massively post show. I've always struggled. I've never managed to not struggle. And I think for me, this latest one was probably the worst, because it was like laced with like loneliness and just I remember being out in America, right? So I finished that prep. First show went great. The next day, I really attached food to like celebration. So the next day, like, cows would have a day off. Oh my God, I must have done a 10,000 calorie challenge and more. There wasn't a minute of that day that my stomach wasn't full, and yet I had a show in 2 weeks. So massive mistake, like, on my part, because I couldn't control myself. But I think Cal probably shouldn't have let me do it. But he wasn't to know that. Like,
No.
we just got top 10 at New York Pro. Like, that's the first show we'd done together. He had no idea to the extent that I would like fuck it, which I did.
And he probably thought you're on such a high, this level of ecstasy that you're on it. You're not gonna overindulge. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe, yeah. And obviously, and unfortunately, I was with Louis and another competitor, and Thomas was the other competitor. In particular, had finished his season was finished. So he was almost like egging me on.
Yeah.
So we spent that whole day eating, man, and I woke up 6 kilos heavier the next day or whatever.
Is that what it was?
Or actually, I don't think it was as much. And I was like, oh, fucking got away with it.
No,
next day,
yeah.
Oh no, sorry, that's not true. It was the day after the show. It wasn't that bad, but then the day after the show,
Got you.
the 2 days after, it was really bad. So, and really, that is potentially where my season went wrong, because we did well at the New York Pro, and then I had to spend the next 2 weeks in what was a horrible deficit, and my body was already pretty knackered at this point. So I remember saying to Cal, like, I'll push it, like, and I did, and we got the weight back down and stuff, but I felt like crap, man, for 2 weeks, and then obviously went into Milwaukee, Miami 2 weeks later. So I think really that kind of derailed my prep. So in terms of taking that into this year, if I am to do 1, 2, 3 shows or 2, 3 shows, like I won't be having a day off between shows. And I think I should have known that. I should have known better. I think I let the occasion get better with me.
Of course, which, you know, can't beat yourself up about. These things happen.
Yeah.
These things happen, and the support this year will be far different.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not competing, so I'll be.
And I hope Cal will be there, and
of course.
Stuff like that. So, but then, I think the real problem was after New York, was after Miami, whereby I was now completely on my own at this point and had been for a week or so, in a really cool place, which was full of distractions and temptations, and you know, traveling. Like, it's one of my favorite things to do. I was in Miami, of all places, but yeah, on my own, and I wasn't even enjoying myself at that point, and I'd done that show, and post show. I was just like, right, it's your time to actually, you know, enjoy yourself a bit, and I didn't enjoy myself anymore. But I just ate. I just kept eating, man. I was going to Whole Foods. I was going out for lunch. I was going out for dinner, and what I was doing was to try and. It's so unhealthy to think about it. Please, no one follow this. Don't do what I did. I was trying to outrun that diet effectively. You know, that was saying you can't outrun a bad diet. Well, I was trying to do that. So I would wake up. I'd do 45 minutes cardio.
Okay.
I remember one day. The one day in particular, there was a breakfast place I wanted to go, and it was must have been like a couple mile walk, like 30 minutes walk. Bear in mind, at the end of prep, your legs are knackered, your joints are dry, you're pretty screwed. And I was like, I'll walk back to get my steps in. So it's about half an hour, 40-minute walk each way. I remember after that day just being like, my legs are I think they're just giving up. I was already struggling with my knees, and so I was trying to outrun like that bad diet, and then instead I was just like filling this void of like unhappiness and dissatisfaction that I had with food. So I was binging every day.
And when did you go to Marbella with me?
That was probably 4 weeks later. Once I got
after your last show.
I still was bad then, weren't I? Not great.
You weren't great. No, I do remember. Not that I'm in a position to say like stop eating, because
but
the
it's still
physique
bad.
looked silly. Like I remember we both trained topless at Padel, and it was just silly. Like the humidity, the condition, it was like.
And that's the problem, you know, because your physique doesn't. I was probably. I tell you what, I really fell off when I got home. Mental health, I think I probably spoke to you about it. I spoke openly about it as well. I was in the gutters. Like, I felt lower than I've ever felt in my life. And I trained every day, but other than that, I stopped. I stopped jabbing. I was really bad with like my vitamins and supplements and everything. Everything fell off. I was just trying to relax because I felt like I needed to get back to a place of like equilibrium,
homeostasis.
And so. You know, that time out in Marbella, I probably hadn't jabbed for a few weeks. So my testosterone actually, like, clinically was probably quite back low down, but your physique just doesn't seem to deteriorate. Like, you fill it up with food and your stress drops. And I remember this is what happened. Like, I got back, I remember sending Cal pics of like a week and a half after I'd been back, you know, just back training at the coach. And I was like, what is this physique? Like,
I remember.
I had a back all of it. It's like I'd literally grown a back in 2 weeks. But obviously what had happened was, the stress had just dropped and my body just started responding to the food.
Exactly.
You know, and obviously I wasn't as tight, but the fact that the muscles were piercing the skin almost, like it was crazy. So you know your physique isn't deteriorating as quick as you expect it to. So you get this like positive feedback as well. I could just eat then. So you keep going.
Yeah, then it ends up being quite dangerous.
Yeah, and then at some point it's just like poof, it's gone. You know, it's not, but it's like you slowly deteriorate, and then you're at a point where you're like, oh right. Yeah,
it's an interesting one because we sort of joke around in the group chat because Josh was on how many Deliveroos, like, and I don't know why, but I've never been in that position. I've never been post show gone crazy.
Yeah,
maybe you know we went out for dinner after the only time I can remember as a junior, but even then I was I don't know. There's a bit of a barrier for me when I get into that, and I don't know where that's come from, but I think actually there was one time because I rang you, didn't I? I said,
gone to the petrol station.
Yeah, I said I've gone to the petrol station. I'm so hungry, and I felt like a bottomless pit. And I was like, what do I do? And you went, we'll go back and get Ben and Jerry's and more cookies. I was like, is this the correct advice? He was like, no, you're in it now. I was like, all right, cool. So I went back, got Ben and Jerry's, got cookies, didn't touch the sides.
Not official advice, by the way. That was me bantering one of my close friends. But
Yeah, but then obviously in my headspace, I took it as gospel. So then I was like, right, I'm going to go to Morrison's now. I think I put out a thing, who does the best cook. They've been on, it's like 7 p.m. at night. So who does the best cookies? It's like Lidl or something. So I went to Lidl, Welling, thankfully, the cookies. And then I just felt like, what have I done?
yeah,
I felt so guilty and I felt so dirty. And I don't know, I think I'm for me, whenever I push scale weight up into off seasons, for some reason I just gain body fat. It's just so annoying. I've got that female fat distribution. Every time I went to the DEXA scan, they always highlight it. It's like good long term because you're not holding a lot of fat, around the vital organs and heart and whatnot. But from a physique standpoint, because you're holding so much fat around that lower abdomen and glutes, for example, it's going to be tough. So I'm always so, maybe it's like an insecurity, self-conscious thing, whereby I've worked so hard for 6 months, I don't want this to fade. So the knock-on effect of me binging or the knock-on effect of me having too much food means that what I've worked on over the last 6 months, this temple's gone. And even in my bay, I remember like making food choices. Even you were like, come on, Tom, you're going, I think I had a steak, Caroline had a steak as well, do you know what I mean? It was just like, what am I doing? And we were active as well, lots of steps, 15k steps, we were training, the humidity. There was a block in me that was like, nah. And even now, with physique goals changing, I'm still in a bit of a gaining phase at the moment. I'm quite conscious. I'm drinking a little bit more now, but that's just because that social element's back in my life and I very much enjoy it. But I've never been in a position whereby I've on prep as well. I think I'm too scared. I've always had that junior mentality. Remember my first show as a junior. That's the most anal I've been with food ever. I'm talking cereal 1 gram, whereas even like the last preps I was like, oh, 51 grams. Back as a junior, I was on it. I was even less sometimes.
Yeah, and I think I noticed that about you when we first actually like met and started hanging out in person. I was always shocked at how not really shocked, but like I was impressed with how anal you were with everything. Because I just find myself, I am so relaxed. I'm so relaxed, and I remember it was one of the first things that like struck me about you. I was like, you're fucking a lot more serious than like anyone gives you credit for. With like,
shame my physique don't show it.
Just being, it did though at one point. Just with how precise and how anal you were. And I remember thinking, fucking hell, I probably need to up my game. But then I spend time with Josh, and I'm just like, it's just so many ways to skin a cat. But I guess what I'm getting at and I think I spoke about this before, is like, I'm just not in a place where I look at people like AJ, Kuba, Nick Walker, for example, and I unfortunately don't want the life they've got, and therefore that means I make different choices, which is absolutely fine because that's what they want and it's not what I want. And that just gets to me a lot. I think I get a lot of imposter syndrome about what I'm doing and am I dedicated enough to this process. But I think that's because actually not enough people are open about how they behave.
No.
Like, for example, I see Andre Dio out in Dubai quite often.
He was in Tulum with Lou.
He does what he wants, mate. He does what he wants.
The food, the training. Obviously, as you mentioned about CBUM, there's that genetic predisposition that they've got, whereby they've got a bit more of a runway to push things. Like I know if I, go eat 4 or 5 days in Ibiza and I'm off it with food and I come back and I just look like Nate Diaz. I'm skinny. I'm like, what has happened?
Who is this gazelle?
Yeah, I'm just a complete mess. So unfortunately, I'm not in a position whereby, and as I mentioned, when I'm not on it with food, scale weight, I basically need to be tracking one thing, and then I know physically and psychologically I'm in a good position. But yeah,
do you think this is born out of? Has there been periods in your lifting career or bodybuilding? I know exactly. I'm looking for an answer here. Has there been times where you've been really unhappy with how you looked or looked back on?
Hugely.
Dorian Yates?
Hugely.
Anyone?
What do you mean?
The picture with Dorian.
Oh, good God.
So do you think that sort of scarred you?
Yeah,
like,
but that
times
was
like that?
Pre that as well. If you speak to my mum, I can sit my mum down here. We used to go to Mansfield a lot, because that's where my grandparents were, and there was a market store out there, and I always used to say, can you get me like XL t-shirts? Bear in mind I was young, and I used to stretch them. I had a real problem with my legs.
Were you a fat kid?
Yeah.
Really?
Not big, but like yeah, I wasn't happy at all, and I used to remember stretching these Charizard t-shirts down to my legs, man, because I hated it. And then it was only when I started swimming, whereby I started to see the weight come off. That's when it clicked for me. That I started to be like, right, and now I have to start making decisions with food and that.
So I think that makes so much sense, because me and Josh were both really skinny kids.
Right.
So if you look back, if I showed you pictures of me when I was like 15, I had like a 6-pack. Like, I was skinny.
I didn't have my first 6-pack until Malia, which was.
And you worked for that, I assume.
And I worked for that,
yeah,
man.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And I was, can't remember what year it was, but I remember walking down the strip. I was an absolute arsehole, mate. I used to do the thing where you took the t-shirt off and put it into your shorts, and I used to be like, "You're right, girl." I used to be like HS Ticky Tocky.
Oh, don't even start with them.
But well, I'll put it on one of the bar staff, the girls. What are they, little promoters? I lost my mates. I was like, I lost my mates. Can I chill with you? She was like, yeah, sure. I was like, what time did you finish? She was like, 3. And I was like, fuck, it's 11 o'clock. 4 hours. I got a graph of this. Paid off. And then that was my first time whereby I was like, yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of makes total sense to me now, what you're saying. So me and Josh are the total opposite. So I was like, I don't think there's been a time when I've been really unhappy with my physique ever. When I started,
been a time.
No, whether I'm like peak off season or what, like I'm very body positive. Like,
that's mad.
I understand what I'm doing and why. So even when I'm at my absolute fattest, I can see that I can take the positives in that.
Wow, see, I can't do that.
And I think I am, and I really think I'm now at a point where I'm fortunate enough, or whatever, I've worked for enough years that I just carry enough muscle to not get fat.
See, I used to lie about checking pictures of Cal. Oh, I forgot, mate, because I couldn't even bear sending them.
Because in off season.
Yeah, I wouldn't even. It was only until 8 weeks out that I'd send him pictures, and he was like, "We start the prep in Jan." And he was like, "Where's these pictures?" And I was like, "Oh, lighting's bad. Sorry, I'll get them to you next week." I just constantly, because I got to a point, even sometimes during prep, I was like, I remember just sending them quick look like that just to see if the lighting's right, and then send. And it wasn't until.
At least you're not editing them.
No. No, of course not. I'm not going to
Pointless.
Edit images.
Cheating yourself and Carl.
Yeah, but I'd never go down the route of being so unhappy or insecure the way I looked and make up for editing pictures.
No.
That would be like.
I just think it's really interesting. Yeah, I think that kind of makes sense. I know. It's a shame we've not got Josh here, because I actually think Josh doesn't enjoy his off-season physique anywhere near as much as his shredded one, because he posts quite a lot about, I can't wait to be shredded again. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, like, I prefer how I look shredded, but like, I'm all good with how I look peak off season. And as like I say, I probably always have been. Like, I remember when I first got to 120, probably like my chunkiest physique, but even then, like, I was all right with it. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's probably where it stems from in terms of our control over food. It's just really interesting talking to you about that, because I had a client ask me this week about therapy, actually, which I wasn't really able to answer because we're in such different positions. But he was saying to me about he was saying that he would like to get therapy to dig into that, like his body image, because he was a chubby kid and he's worried about pushing food up and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting what you say there. Yeah, very insightful.
Yeah, it's also interesting that you said about how you can be in a position now whereby we are now seeing individuals like Andre and Chris that are highlighting that particular, because it's quite rare that even back in the day you used to see bodybuilders have that element of this is my life, because you sort of subjugated to them just that bodybuilding is their life and whatnot. And it is, I think it needs more spokesmen and women to highlight that.
Yeah, I agree. I think what I've always thought, actually, I can't think of many / any open class bodybuilders that it's not their whole life, or at least not openly. Maybe there are some. I know actually some sort of back in the day, like who's that guy? Who's the absolute goat that used to is it Kevin Lerone, that famously didn't train in off season, then started in prep.
Yeah.
So
but Bumstead does that in the sense that I think he said it on a podcast where the gear usage comes completely.
Yeah, and there's like 3 months off training.
Yeah, and you can tell, because I think him and Brandon did a video together, and he not shrunk. Good God, he's still a mountain of a man, even when he's off the gear. But it was definitely noticeable, like that contest shape. And then I think he went to Mexico after his most recent Olympia. Just looks incredible.
Yeah,
but he is genetically gifted in that
Yeah,
position,
obviously.
whereby he can pull back. I think the vast majority of us that go in, especially from a hormonal imbalance point of view, go post show and just completely come off, it's not going to do him very good at all.
Yeah, I think basically what I've said to you on this, I want to see how this year goes, like, because if it turns out I'm really, really classic physique, then I'm probably not going to be like, oh, let's call it a day here. But
this is interesting because you've just said I'm coming toward the end of my time.
Yeah.
But what if you go out there and get an incredible response? You're on whatever Instagram page is, the future, the prospect.
Yeah, I mean, then my perspective may well shift, because I do love it. Like, I've dedicated about 10 years of my life to this process, and obviously I love it because I would still, even though I quite often choose life, that's how I like to put it, I still default back to this bodybuilding process that I have, I love so much, even if it is my sort of slant on it. And yeah, if it goes really well and like I qualify for the Olympia or whatever, then fucking hell, I might have to carry on a bit. But I'm definitely not going to compete next year. I've got lots of weddings, and I think I'm going to miss the whole of summer this year. So I'm gonna
really.
Yeah. Well, starts in May, doesn't it? So May, June, July, August.
Yeah, you're done.
I'm done.
You're done.
You're done. You're done. You're done.
You just got to go hard this Christmas. Plenty of Christmas markets.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously, things might change, but I'm definitely not going to compete next year, and I think I will. Pretty confident I'll come off after this season.
Yeah, I'll probably be joining you,
and I'll just cold turkey. I'll just be like, get it done. I might do a power PCT actually.
I think it's also worth documenting. I think one of the biggest reasons why people are so in fear of that is because there's not a huge amount of information. Bar Dr. Dean's stuff with regard to how to correctly, take on a PCT protocol. I haven't seen much my PCT journey.
No.
Which I think will be very interesting. I definitely want to cut. The more I do this, the level of sport and athleticism, the more I want to get rid of it. Like, it's weird how your the concept and how you become not reliant on, but you. I remember being so excited, like, right, I've done my 12-week cruise, my bloods are good, never really had an issue with my bloods. I can't wait to up the dose. I can't wait to.
Yeah.
I want to get. I almost feel like Venom with the suit. I want it out my system. I almost feel dirty having to inject.
Is it like after you jab, do you feel the same as after you've had a beat?
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
Oh, what am I doing?
Yeah, I just think there's. I know I'm in a physiological range of testosterone, so the last 8 months I've been somewhat natty. So but there's still an element of I want to start this process, this hybrid, this swim cycle run. Actual natty.
Yeah.
Because then it's like a real true representation of my performance. But if I get my testosterone done, it's still at I think it's like last time was 13 nanomolar. So there's still
the road basically.
There's still room for me if I wanted to push that dose up to get on the higher end. And it's what it's what basic TRC does, isn't it? They come to me. Even our mate you spoke about. You can, if you're on that lower end, you can push up. Whether or not I go down the route of just continually sticking on that dose, don't up the dose, and then implement, as we spoke about, the aspartic acid, things like that, which I think is equally interesting. But yeah, I'm looking forward to coming off completely and seeing how that affects me. But it's interesting that no shows for you next year at all.
I need a year off anyway, man. This is only the second time I've done 2 years on. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm really, really excited. Like for the shows this year, it's a very big challenge. Like, I need to start reaching out for like posing coaching and stuff. So it's going to be exciting for sure.
For classic, of course, yeah.
But yeah, next year I won't be competing. And I'm excited to live like a normal life, like for a bit,
Do you think you've both got to that point whereby you're probably aware that what you're doing with anabolics is having a negative impact?
1,000,000%. We literally were DMing about it yesterday.
And what are you just accepting it? You like, but this is part and parcel of us being the best.
I am accepting it for a limited period of time.
Yeah, sure.
I guess
suppose that's
in my head, this is how I'm like laying it out, and this may or may not be correct, but like it's a short career, right? It's a particularly short period of time where I'm going to be this unhealthy in terms of the size I'm carrying around and whatnot, and therefore, and my life post will be very healthy and naturally very healthy, you know, fit and hopefully able, and I'll carry all the nutritional practices that I've been carrying from now. So I almost hope I can like claw back some years, as it were. But at the end of the day, like if I live to, whether I live to 85 or 88, like I don't really care. Do you know what I mean?
really.
Yeah.
See that
To be honest.
since I've taken a step back, I get more in fear of it. Like I'm not. I want longevity now. I want to live till I'm old.
I would like to live till I'm old, but you know the way I see grandparents and stuff, you know, getting to that point in life whereby they get to a certain age and then they just deteriorate, and the quality of life of that last few years is not. It's not really anything that I would rather have lived the life that I loved whilst I was able to do so, and if that means I shave a couple of years off at the end, I can deal with that.
That's true. Well, God knows what sort of technology will be out when we're in.
Yeah. Hopefully,
70s,
I'll still be here at 100.
Mm.
We'll see. There was a couple of questions I actually thought we should just touch on because it seems quite relevant based on that topic about like natural testosterone boosters.
Sure.
So I think it's a very it's a question that I'm sure we all get from time to time.
Yeah, I remember when Ben Escrow, when he was working at De Novo, did a fantastic podcast on how we shouldn't completely overlook the power of natural testosterone boosting supplements. I think the stigma is very negative because the promise that is expected, obviously, from a marketing standpoint, putting a big juiced up guy on the front is gonna, give you that impression that if I take it, I'm gonna put myself into super physiological ranges, but it's not. But there is definitely room whereby even if it's a few nanomolar, and that difference is for someone that hasn't been on gear is massive. Look at a lot of the studies done in terms of overall energy levels scored, increase in that, better sleep, better libido. So I definitely think there's room for people that want to make improvements and adjustments, bar the obvious being sleep factors as well. I think that is so overlooked. It's almost like a sleep supplement, isn't it? I don't recommend Dr. Dean's Sleep Stack or PM Priming until we've improved your hygiene.
Yeah.
And it's the same with testosterone. If we want to really assess testosterone and make those adjustments, nutrition, sleep, lifestyle factors, are you smoking, are you drinking? Right, they're boxed off. Now we look at it. It's not gonna. You're gonna get more out of it, aren't you?
Yeah, I want us to answer it for someone Gen Pop who has seen like, oh, I see this testosterone booster with like someone who's clearly on steroids advertising it. The general consensus is that they're not effective at boosting your testosterone. I think what you can see is that if you have already testosterone on the lower end of the scale, implementing things like D-aspartic acid, for example, vitamin D and K2 can bring your levels up maybe to a bit more, but I dare say you've probably got a ceiling and you're not going to break through that, and you're certainly not going to be super physiological from taking any natural testosterone.
That vitamin D thing, and I might sound a little crude, when I bump my vitamin D dose up, I know my sex drive goes through the roof.
Really?
I don't know what I use, the Deluxe spray, the 4000. And obviously, if I'm taking the sleep stack, there's an additional bit in there, and there's a couple of other supplements whereby in the morning I'm probably taking a bit more vitamin D. But I notice, and this is the same, like when I go away, or if I increase my frequency of like sunbeds, for example, I don't know why, or the mechanism as to why. Someone could probably tell me. My libido and sex drive goes through the roof, just on vitamin D.
So there you go, Vit D. But as Tom said, it's all the basics in it. It's like making sure your diet is nutritious, getting a nice vitamin and minerals panel in. It's your sleep is going to be so key in terms of keeping your testosterone in a good place.
Stress is a huge driver of low testosterone, like massive. I remember back in the day saving up money, even though I used to work in GNC, saving up money for the Red Grenade, which was a testosterone booster. It's like $49.99, and then I'm in no way, please don't think that I'm promoting anabolic steroid usage at all, but from a price point of view, £50 for DAA which is going to last you a month, as opposed to a vial of testosterone, which, if done in the right scenario and settings, and even advised by a doctor, is going to probably, more bang for your buck. That's not me saying everyone go and take testosterone. That's just me saying. But I remember, and I posted a picture on Facebook the other day. It was like anabol testo. Don't know if you see it.
Yeah.
It was like Matrix Nutrition did a stack, and I remember bringing it in, and people were like, "Oh my god, have you seen what Tom's on?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah," and it was in my little Bronson phase. So
Herbs.
herbs. I was being better off, like you said, having vitamin D. But that was when the Dorian Yates days. I was just having bacon, maple syrup, pancakes. I was having beans. The beans and sausage.
Oh, I love them little pork sausages.
I had them on toast, and I got fat, and it was terrible. And ultimately, the fatter you get, there's also going to be a reduction in testosterone. So
yeah. So managing body fat as well.
What am I doing here? We ran blads. We ran bloods, one of my clients, just for this, because he wanted to get a pre-blood list done, and he lost quite a considerable amount of body fat, and his testosterone rocketed.
Really?
By a good amount as well. I'll have to pull him up.
Because there's a tipping point there, isn't there, in terms of, I guess, someone who's overweight losing fat to get to a more healthy place will see higher testosterone, but someone who, like a natural prep, for example, it will absolutely drive your testosterone into the ground, because also, this is the problem with bodybuilding. Too much body fat.
I know.
Not enough testosterone. Too little body fat, and natural, not enough testosterone. So there's definitely a sliding scale.
That's bonk it on it said, just be hybrid athlete, man.
Yeah.
Bodybuilding's not good. It's not doing anyone any favours.
I think we're gonna talk in a future episode when we've got Josh back about the use of steroids in general.
A big one.
Because I think it's a topic that I always speak about it and want to continue speaking about, and also I'd love to speak about in like a long form discussion in terms of the use of steroids. I mean, people frame the question in terms of what do you think about the use of steroids in younger people, and that's kind of what I want to tackle.
Huge. But I'm now at a point, and I speak about longevity again, whereby I'm sort of flirting with the idea, and I've watched a lot of Joe Jeffries talk on GH and how we probably should be running relatively low dose GH for life. You look at the greats. Arnold's most definitely. Individuals of that ilk are probably running growth hormone, and it's something that I think could I come off completely but still run growth hormone and
so like youthful, like for youthful benefits,
because I suppose, but then I'm the sort of person whereby I'd feel like if I'm going through a certain phase, I might just up it a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
I think growth on its own
it
doesn't do a lot. It's the synergies with testosterone fusing together. But I'm pretty sure that in parts of the world, like, females take a little bit of growth for staying young.
But it's over the counter, isn't it? Like you can get. I need to get that Pfizer pen.
It's good stuff, that is.
But yeah, we want to do a podcast on that, and I think it will be interesting to dive into it a little deeper with you two being in the position where you're at now, and me being in the position I'm at too.
Yeah, definitely. I look forward to that discussion. There was one final question which I do want to answer. It's not really related to what we've spoken about, but someone took the effort to send me a voice note to explain his question. So I think we should at least dignify it with an answer. So we'll finish on this one. And it's about how you manage your time off, or I think more specifically, how you deal psychologically with taking time off when you are a one-man band. He was explaining to me that he's currently in the army, but he does online coaching on the side. Amazing. He's got content to think of. He also trains himself. And when he feels like, or when he does nothing for a short period of time, he feels guilty. He feels like he can't take that time off, which I can 100% relate to. I think I'm quite good at dealing with it. Wanting to understand from your perspective, especially like now. I know you've got a lot going on. Obviously managing the media side of this, launching IBF Classic, thinking about flow, trying to sort out your own training. Are you taking time off? Do you have a time period in the day where you relax? Because I saw you at the computer at like 11 p.m. 2 nights ago.
Yeah, that was I was at Jake Hall's preview talk, which was fantastic, by the way. But that was just me wrapping up a few things because I was obviously out. But no, usually I'm done. I'm off by about 5, 6 p.m. and that's just straight now. I've learned from past experience what has happened to myself and that knock-on impact of relationships with me breaking that boundary. And I don't want to fall in the trap of just because I'm single doing that. I want to, regardless single in a relationship, I still want to be in that position whereby 5 or 6 p.m. I'm off. And then it's hard because you, especially for people that go on holiday, and you're almost in this position whereby, do I work on holiday or do I double up on the work previously? And both still elicit such a high level of stress. Then you never really enjoy the holiday. So I just completely come off. I say to my clients, look, we'll carry that week over. I come off social media for 7 days, and it is the best thing that I can recommend to someone. No one's going anywhere. Your clients will still be there. Your social media will still be there. If not, it gives a bit of a hype. Where's Tom gone? Remember the first time? Where's Tom gone? I log back in and my followers are boosted up. And I'm saying that I did it for that purpose, but for that reason. But I'm off now, and I've seen the knock-on impact. Like my previous partner having to do the amount of work that was required for that week that she'd have been off. The burnout is onset earlier, and then holiday you spend like almost recovering. So it's very, very unhealthy to get into that mindset whereby I've got to do this and got to do that. So no, I'm off completely. And if people don't like that, then that's fine. I'll stick with people that allow that. They your clients will appreciate that. You got to understand you are normal as well.
Yeah, this is I think the line that I draw. So I will actually I'll let me tackle it like micro first. In terms of like taking time off, I think I'm pretty good at it. I don't really feel too guilty if I'm spending the evening chilling out. In fact, I try and make a conscious effort to do it.
I love it.
I'm not always very good at it. Like what I find is, unfortunately, I get up and I work really quite productively in the morning. So I'm getting up at 5:30. I'm at my desk by 6:30. I'll probably work right up until maybe midday, maybe just before. So I get a good sort of 4 or 5 hours of working, and that's when I'm at my most productive. I'll only stop to eat, and then I go train. And for me, training is still work. You know, I'm a professional bodybuilder. It's still part of my job.
You're creating content.
Yeah, I'm creating content. So once I get home, then I'm not very good. So let's say I get home at like 3:00. What really should happen then is I should spend 2 hours working again.
Absolutely.
Getting all my work done, and then I should log off at 5 or 6. What I'm not very good at is that. So when I get home, I've almost broken that seal of like, all right, I'm on my phone, I'm on TikTok, I'm procrastinating. So what I need to do really is come back, have a shower, mental break, throw my phone in another room, and then start working again. What I find myself doing, unfortunately, is not being productive, and then I end up sitting there till 6 or 7 p.m. at my computer. And that cracks me up because I'm like, you just worked a 12-hour day or 13-hour day, kind of on and off. So I need to get better at that. But yeah, I don't feel guilt taking time off because I think it's really, really important. And I certainly experience like burnout sometimes. What I will say is that I do absolute minimal work on Saturday and Sunday. I might get up and do a couple of hours or an hour whilst I have my breakfast. You know, I've got clients to reply to and whatever. I don't want to leave it 48 hours for them to get a reply. But I have siphoned off Saturday and Sunday. There are no official check-ins. So that is kind of how I take time off. But I would say I do a little bit of work every day, and I'm okay with that.
Don't tell Molly May that.
I know. I think with Gigi actually said something interesting to me once, which was about like, these are your years to like work your ass off to build yourself a life. So there is a bit of that sort of toxic productivity going on, and I am kind of all trying to work, but Saturday and Sunday, chill out, like, and that's fine.
Yeah. So I implement Grace Beverley's hard work and soft work, sort of like you do. Wake up 5:30. I'm on the computer 6 till 10. Eat another hour. Train. When I'm back, then it's very, very light work.
Yeah.
Very light work, and then how early I finish is dictate on how hard I work. But most days at 4 or 5.
So that's that. I don't think you should feel guilty about taking time off. I really don't.
All,
I think it's really important.
Not at all. Your clients will probably be in a similar position to you as well, and they want holiday, and you just say, well, I'm off, and they say, yeah, cool.
Yeah, and then on the macro scale, in terms of like taking holiday, remember that everyone at work has 25 days or statutory holiday, so
we don't.
It should really be accepted. And I dare say I probably take about 14 days, if that. in terms of like full on days off away from work?
Yeah, mine's just when I go away.
Yeah.
There's never a time whereby I'm in the UK
Not working.
not working.
Yeah, same. That's it. We are done. We're about to run out of time. 1 minute. We've exhausted a whole hour and a half.
No, don't say hour and a half. You were late.
Yeah, I was late.
An hour. I was here on my Santander bike.
Santan Tom.
Right, let's go to the Ned for some breakfast.
Thank you very much. Lots of love.
See you later.
Keep supporting. Goodbye.